the people of sake actually brought me into sake.
Back in 1988, this place was actually in Ginza on the main drag.
At first it was kind of soy sauce, it was miso.
To the point where it actually changed my life.
New Year's Day 1989.
Not just sake as a beverage, but all the culture and history.
Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Sake on Air, the world's first podcast dedicated to expanding the dialogue surrounding Japan's iconic beverages, sake, shochu, and, of course, aomori. Our show is made possible with the support of the Japan Sake and Shochu Makers Association. Usually we record from Toranomon, but today we are on Zoom. My name is Frank Walter, and I am joined by Christopher Hughes. Hey, Chris.
Hey, hey.
And Cindy Bissig. Hey, Cindy.
Hello.
Today we are going to be talking about Izakaya, but unlike our Izakaya 101 episode, this is going to be a bit more of our personal recommendations across Japan, with a particular focus in Tokyo and Kyoto, because I know a lot of people like to go there. So Chris, you're our Tokyo man. Cindy, you're our Kyoto lady, and I'm going to take up the rest of Japan with all my weird little places that I've found that I like a lot on my various business trips. So let's get started.
Okay, so we're starting in Tokyo, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, chances are you're going to come to Tokyo if you come to Japan, I think. It's just the capital of cool. And so I am going to start with my local. And it's the Izakaya, which I most want people to go to if they come to Japan. Because I have a personal connection with the Izakaya. I want to see them survive and succeed. And they're doing a lot of hard work to try and make themselves known to as many people from overseas as they can. I think they've got probably like thousands of reviews on their TripAdvisor, Google Maps, and it's all basically, a lot of it is through word of mouth, and also the incredible service that they provide, which is second to none. I've never...
Chris, what is this place called?
I know, let me big it up a little bit. Let me big it up a little bit first.
You're burying the lead, man.
Okay. All right. Enough at the trailer. That's how you do things these days, right? So this place is called Gashue, and it is located in Ueno. Ueno is definitely a hub in Tokyo that I think you will most likely travel through on your way. If you come in through Narita Airport, you are most likely to go through Ueno. Haneda, not so much. And Ueno is actually a very popular place to stay as well, because the hotels are, probably should say were, slightly on the cheaper side. I think maybe not so much these days. But it's also a really cool place just to hang out, because it is kind of a mix of downtown and uptown Tokyo. It's often referred to as the gateway to Tokyo. And Ueno, of course, is famous for its park, where you can see the lovely cherry blossoms. But yeah, Gashue is my local. I live in Ueno, very close to Ueno. And this place opened just before the pandemic. And as I do actually provide special experiences for tourists at this venue, because they are so easy to work with. Like I said, the service that they're providing is second to none. Even if you don't take my experience, you still get this incredible introduction to sake. You don't pay anything extra for it. The owner is a massive lover of sake. It's basically a father and son run izakaya, and the father is the one that comes out and in his best English as he possibly can, which is improving, he basically gives you this little introduction to sake. And the great thing about this place is that they are dedicated to sake. They have one of the most extensive menus, sake menus, I think, in Tokyo. And they're constantly rotating the sake, keeping it fresh, introducing new breweries. They do actually run Meet the Brewery events. So if you're in Tokyo at a particular time and you can time it right, you might actually be able to join one of these Meet the Brewer events, where you can actually basically taste an entire brewery's lineup and ask questions to, often the president comes along, or the toji, or one of the main salespeople. And yeah, Gashue Ueno, if you're looking for a place, you're in Tokyo and you don't know where to go, you just want to try sake, you've always wanted to discover sake, you want to explore sake as much as possible, I can't think of a better place to check out in Tokyo than Gashue.
And I second that.
Yeah, Cindy is a regular there as well
Okay.
when she's in Tokyo, right?
Because I always stay in Ueno because it is such a great
Yeah.
hub to kind of venture out and do stuff. So me and Chris have occasionally sake and dined in in Gashue.
So yeah, check this place out. Sorry, Frank.
I was gonna suggest, can I make an off the wall comparison?
Sure.
So Dave and Miwa in Hachioji with Sake Dozo Kitchen, which is a bit harder to get to, right? From
Yeah.
Tokyo. It's far less central, but Dave and Miwa were on the show. They talked about like expressing sake in your own language and stuff like that. I feel like Gashue and Sake Dozo Kitchen, while different, have a very similar vibe,
Oh yeah.
where it is kind
Absolutely.
of like homey food, and then you've got this guy who just wants you to drink and like sake a lot
Yeah.
and is willing to like be like, hey, I've got this special one, you got to go try it, you got to try this, guys. I feel like there's a lot, the vibe is very similar, so it's kind of like the 2 points of these very homey sake lover spots maybe in Tokyo.
I completely agree. And the other thing I would point out is that one of the main draws of this place, I think, is that it's a very modern looking izakaya. It's not the traditional wooden, grungy, smoky, kind of quite scary place. And this one of the concepts behind Gashue was delivering a more elegant and modern experience for people who perhaps normally wouldn't go to drink at an izakaya.
Is there a place like that in Kyoto, Cindy? Kind of the same sort of vibe?
Well, I think Kyoto is interesting because it's very different to the vibe that you have in Tokyo. I think there might be similar places. I have one on top of my mind that might go in a similar direction because I think the owner is very much in the same spirit as Kako-san. It's like jam plus sake bar.
Jam plus sake bar?
Yes.
Like jam, like spread jam on toast
Yeah,
jam?
is there jam?
It's spelled like that jam, but is it that jam? We don't know.
Is it maybe musical jam, like
No,
jamming
the
jam?
thing is
No.
like I think it comes from they have a hostel that's part of it. So the ground floor entrance is basically the sake bar, and then upstairs they have rooms that people can book and stay at. So it has this younger vibe. So what you've been saying there earlier, Chris, like I think Gashua is also that style, right? It's a bit younger style, it's a bit more modern. It
Yeah.
still has an amazing sake selection, and the guys at Jam they're pretty much the same. They don't do brewers evenings. They wouldn't have a lot of these, but they somehow get their hands on a lot of unique things. So I've been there recently and I was there with the guy from a brewery and that person brought like his sake and he was like, here, want to try my sake? And then the guys from Cham were like, huh, you gave us this. Let's find something interesting for you. And then they were rummaging through their fridges and they brought a bottle of Reigen from Berlin, which the guys gave them as a gift. And then we were able to drink that. So it was really, really great. So I think
That sounds awesome.
I want to check this place out. It sounds cool. Yeah.
it's very cool, né? And I think that might be the closest to what you would
It
say
is it
Gashua.
as approachable, do you think, as
It is
Joshua is?
because it
Yeah.
is also the accommodation, right? And they do not fluently speak English, but they do speak a couple of languages a little bit. And because they're used to deal also with foreigners, it's a really nice place to come in and be like, okay, they are excited to see you because that's their business, right? They already have an accommodation. They're excited to have you and introduce sake. And they have great little foods as well.
Sounds very similar. Yeah, I really want to check this place out. Sounds cool.
Yeah, I would say for like other parts of the country that I've been to, I mean this kind of place is like all over, but also you kind of have to find it on your own. For shochu, there's a place very similar called Shochu Bar Tanegashima, which is on the island of Tanegashima. So no one is going there, but it's a guy and his wife, and they do like home style food, and he has just a bunch of shochus and is just very excited to be like, hey, you've never had shochu before. Try this, try this, try this, try this, try it in this way. So it's definitely like a little I feel like you want to look maybe for a slightly modern exterior but that's still pretty like warm and friendly and kind of not fancy looking on the inside.
Hmm.
I feel like that's kind of the vibe.
Yeah, sounds similar-ish. I think Frank, you're going to be our off the beaten path
Yes,
option, right?
that's the idea.
I
yeah.
might throw a few in if
Okay.
we get there.
Please. Yeah.
I'm not going to have any off the beaten path ones, I don't think, because I rarely go off the beaten path. I guess that's not my thing. But I know how fun it can be, though.
Yeah.
So,
But like, because like, if we're talking about Kagoshima, like for shochu, the classic shochu bars are Roku and Ishizue, which friend of the show Maya Ailey still works at. It's not the same vibe, right? Because they're way more fancy. I feel like, or fancy is the wrong word. They're more like a bar and less of like a dude kind of almost welcoming you into his converted house to drink lots of sake and eat food.
which is what the Tanigashima one is.
Which is very much the Tanigashima one is like is way more gashue, way more Dave and Miwa Sake Dozo Kitchen vibes.
Cool.
Are there any like more bar places that you would recommend in Tokyo, Chris?
Let me think. Yeah.
And Sydney and Kyoto, of course.
I mean, not like bar as in sort of. No, actually, there is one, which is definitely more like a bar. I'm not sure. I guess when people think of bar, everyone has a different sort of image about what that is, but it's not kind of like a 1960s retro, jazz kind of type bar. I don't know any places like that do sakis. They tend to be more kind of cocktails and
Western
and spirits,
style,
right? I think that's generally accepted, isn't it? But there's a really cool place in a part of Tokyo called Kagurazaka, and it's called Sake Bar Otonari. I've only actually been there once, to be quite honest, and I was actually introduced to this. Well, I was rather taken to this bar by a friend of mine, and it's quite a unique place. Not so much the facade. I think it's just, if I remember correctly, it's in the basement of a building that doesn't look particularly special in any way, but the interior design is really, really, really quite unusual, quite unique, kind of more traditional looking. It looks like what I would imagine a traditional Japanese bar to look like, from back in old Japan. But at the same time, it's got some modern twists to it as well. The sake menu is absolutely amazing. And the food menu is quite unique as well. They've got things like cheese toasties on the menu, which go really well with the sake. And I think that's actually all we ordered when we went there. Maybe some ham as well.
A cheese toasty is like grilled cheese?
Yeah, well, you would call it a grilled cheese, but you can't call it a grilled cheese. It's a cheese toasty. Come on. It's cheese on toast. I'm from
British versus the American.
Come on, the British invented cheese on toast. Maybe, question mark. Tell us in the comments. But like I said, I've only been once, but it left a really strong impression, and I definitely want to go back. But I honestly don't think I've been anywhere quite like this place since. So yeah,
it's really close to a place called Iseto, which is like one of the few places you can get a sake called Hakutaka, which is the sake that's like given to
one of my favorite
Ise Shrine.
Yeah, but
Iseto is like the exact opposite vibe because it's super dark. You're not really supposed to talk or interact with people. You're just supposed to like eat your chikua and drink your like atsukan hakutaka in silence and like think about the world and the ukiyo and then leave. But it's like almost across the street, which is kind of funny.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's one of these silent bars, isn't it? They're all the rage, weren't they, some years back? Like where you're not allowed to talk. They have like, when they want to communicate, they have like signs and things that they put
It's not that level. It's more just
not
like the atmosphere is just not conducive to being like, wow, we're having a fun time. It's much more like I am a very shibui salaryman
Yeah.
and I have finished work and I'm having a little drink before I go home, kind of thing.
I think it has to be said as well that Kagurazaka, just in general, is a great place to go sake bar hopping or sake izakaya hopping. There's so many. I wouldn't profess to like know every single one in Kagurazaka, but I do know another one which Sebastian is a massive fan of and goes
Okay.
to quite a lot. And I'm hearing a lot more about it. It's actually it is listed on the internet and it is quite easy to find. I have yet to go myself, so I can't talk so much about it. But Sebastian is always raving about this place called Seigetsu.
Yes.
Quite an old izakaya, I understand, but quite a big izakaya, and I think quite welcoming to foreign visitors in general. Perhaps we can talk about that in another episode because
Yeah.
I really don't know
Make a
anything
trip.
about it. But yeah, so that's my kind of recommendation of a sort of a more bar like bar in Tokyo. And a shout out to Christy and Mario for taking me to that place. I don't think I ever would have found it otherwise.
Heard it here first. What about you, Cindy? Is there like a because I go to Kyoto every so often, but I do not like spend time in Kyoto. Is there
Mm.
like an area of the city you could go and like do like a sake kind of focused bar hopping thing?
Do you know, I was researching a little bit last night and I was walking around and maybe sampling some sake as a preparation for us recording today. Um, and I was actually really surprised because I think we have kind of our usual suspects of where we're going because we love the places and we know kind of what we can expect. So I think maybe the downside of living in one place is that you're not as adventurous in trying to discover as much as people might do when they're just arrived and they come for a week or two. But I was attempting this last night and I went to an area called Pontocho, which is one of the five kind of geisha districts. When you think about busy in terms of Tokyo, you think everything skyscraper and lots of everything. I think in Kyoto, everything is a little bit on a smaller scale. But Pontocho is one of these places where you have like this little maze of streets where you'd have two or three floors, four floors. There's a different restaurant, different bar on every floor. And then you go into a hallway and it opens up to another hallway and you kind of just walk around and you discover restaurants and izakaya. So as I was walking to the sake bar that I was going to, I actually found two other sake bars randomly.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, let me cross this onto my map here, and let me save this here. So we went to the sake bar that we were intended to go to, then walk back to a different sake bar, 5, 10 minutes away. So Pontocho is actually a really great place because it has this high density in Kyoto of entertainment. I think it is kind of the entertainment district just next door where you have a nightclub and you have a lot of where young people would kind of go out.
Mhm.
So yeah, this is definitely also available, but it might not be as obvious because when we think Kyoto, we think Gion and temples and shrines, but
Yeah.
there is certainly areas where you can bar hop. Although I think one thing we have to mention about Kyoto, which may or may not be obvious, is it's not that it is unfriendlier than Tokyo or other places. But I do think there's always been a little bit of mystery about certain establishments. And with many, or more often than not, you do get to a place where you will not get in. And it's not because you're foreigner, it's just because they don't do first-time customers. So unless you've been introduced, you will never come in, even if you are Japanese.
Mhm.
I feel like I have to mention it, although it's not my favorite topic, but I mean, we are dealing with a lot of tourists coming and with a lot of people not always understanding the culture and the etiquette of going to establishments or bars. So there has been a bit of a trend of also some bars not being necessarily as welcoming to foreigners, but there is still plenty who are. And I think my list of bars are actually all people who love people coming from overseas. So something to keep in mind. It's not to be the downer of this episode, but it is
Mm.
unfortunately part of the reality if you're going out in, especially Kyoto, because it is a little bit more private.
And just to make it clear, that means that they're turning away people not just because you're a foreign visitor, they may be turning you away also just simply because you've never been to that place before. It's something in Japanese. What's it called in Japanese? Ichigen
Ichigen
kotowari, is it?
Kotoari. Yeah.
Yeah, which literally means like you'll get turned away if it's your first time. Someone needs to bring you as a guest, and that's how you get into the place next time.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't be offended by that. It happens in Tokyo as well.
Yeah. But I think Kyoto is notorious for it, right? I think it has that culture of
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
Even Japanese people say people in Kyoto are unique.
yes. That's a good word.
Yes,
Unique.
unique.
But you know, I was listening to your bars, and I mean, there is two places that I actually did think about. One, and that couldn't be more different, to be honest, as well. And then I guess what you said, Frank, is actually very true. Like, there's so many different types of bars and restaurant in Japan. You know, there is that si you sit in silence and you just enjoy what's in front of you, and there is this where people actually have a bit of a, you know, have a bit
yeah.
of a good time. So I think the first bar that I would recommend for people to go is actually very close to the famous Nishiki Market. So it's very downtown, and it is again something that's a bit newer, um, hipper. It's a stand bar. It has a young team. They do speak English, not perfect, but they can communicate. It's called Kobayashi Saketen, and they have a lot of Kyoto sake, obviously, because I think that's one of the things, because we have so many breweries so close to us. Most bars and izakayas will stock Kyoto sake, and then they have a couple of other things to add on. It's a fun place to go if you're before dinner or if you just finish dinner when you have one or two more drinks. They also have like DJs in the weekend, so you basically are in a stand bar. You can walk in, you can also be outside on tables in the alleyway and have a bit of music. It's a younger crowd. It's really more about like grabbing a drink before going out or after having dinner. So a little bit different, but I like that we have these varieties.
But yeah, I that sounds really cool. I'm definitely going to try and get to Kyoto at some point myself. Been a long time since I've been, and
You should.
yeah, this is a standing bar, right?
It is a standing bar. They do have a little private room upstairs where they sometimes do events. So I actually been to an event there with a shochu maker from Kagoshima and Genzake from Mie,
Oh, okay, yeah.
which again was like 8 people, Japanese only. I think a lot of times when they do producer stuff, it's a little bit more limited in terms of language availability. But yeah, they're young and they want to do new things, and they're really excited about promoting sake and local beers as well. So there's not just sake; you can also have Kyoto craft beers and Kyoto gin. So it's a nice way to start and not intimidating, because I think what I like about stamp bars, you can just go and have one drink. You know, and if you're not into
Yeah.
it, you can move out, but you haven't had to commit
There's
to
no
it.
commitment. Yeah, exactly. I completely agree.
So then the other bar, and you guys know this, and I think many of our listeners also know this, it's sake bar Yoramu.
Oh yeah.
And I do feel it has to be mentioned because it's a place I really like to go. And I especially like to go when people come visiting for the first time, because it's very small. You know, it's a 9 counter seats only. He doesn't take reservation. You can't go with groups bigger than 3 people because it is a bit of an intimate experience. Like he wants to talk to the people and explain the sake. So everything he has in his fridges is curated, you know, and he knows the story of every bottle. Often he has home aged them himself for I don't know how many years. I think there is stuff in there from 1999, and you can give it a try. He likes things that are more complex. He's not going to give you very bland sake. So you go in there and it's really an experience with someone who knows very well what's on his shelves. Good to know is as well, there's no price on any bottles. So if you go, what people normally do is you can give them a budget. So you can say like, oh, I have maybe like 5,000 yen. That's what, maybe 30, $40. Um, and then you just tell him what you kind of like to drink, and he gives you a recommendation. Often he gives you a teeny tiny sip to try, and then you can decide whether you want a glass or not. So there's also no shame of saying like, oh, actually, I would like something maybe a little bit more aged, and then he'd bring a different bottle, give you a little taster, and you take it from there. And it's really a much more intimate experience where he's very happy when you actually are interested to know more. But it is a more quiet place, like there. So people are expected to be not on the rowdier side.
Yeah, don't go in there and just like start shouting and like talking about how much sake knowledge you have, and 'cause that will rub him up the wrong way. And he's incredibly knowledgeable, but he has a particular um, ambience that he wants to keep and a particular service that he wants to deliver. Again, don't go in there and start, going demanding what type of sake you want to have. Let him be the one to guide you, because actually you'll have a much better experience because of it, and that's the whole point of the place. It is
Yeah.
an incredibly unique place, but it is definitely a place that is worth a visit.
Yes. And to be honest, it is busy. If you really want to go check it out, try to go there at 6 o'clock when he opens.
Yeah.
Get the seat and get a few drinks and then maybe move on to your second spot. But yeah, look, I think when we're looking even at the Google reviews, they are a little bit divided. I
Yeah.
think people
Yeah.
either love it or they don't. I think most people do really enjoy it because of the knowledge, but it is a certain type of service. And if you want to just go in and order a couple of drinks and leave, that's not your place. You will not enjoy yourself. And
Yeah, it helps if like on this show, you've got someone telling you what to expect, and then I think perhaps it's a more likely that you're going to have a good time once you understand the rules of the establishment and what to expect.
yeah, just don't expect to go into a normal bar with a menu. You're literally
Yeah,
going to meet the person and
yeah,
his fridge, and he's gonna guide you through it at
yeah.
his pace.
But one of the best experiences I've had with sake was, I think, my time and Yuraman. I've only been once, but he's a great guy, and a sake samurai as well. Now, a few years
Yes.
ago, he was made a sake samurai. Yeah, I definitely recommend visiting there myself. Also, now back in Tokyo, before we go to Frank's out there, no doubt, off the beaten track, out there, weird recommendations. Um, as far as standing bars go, I think it doesn't get any more famous and well known than the Kuri standing bar in Ginza. There are actually a number of Kuri standing bars, but the one that I've been to most recently is actually on the basement floor of Ginza Station.
Yes.
There is one on the ground floor of the station, but I haven't been to that one, so I can't talk about that one. But the one on the basement floor is incredible. First of all, the sake selection is second to none. If you want to discover something new, they got you covered. If you want to just drink, what you're familiar with, they'll probably have that particular brand or something from that particular brewery. And also the food is quite good as well. The dishes, I mean, they're only little side dishes because it is a standing bar. So it isn't designed to be a restaurant, so to speak. But the dishes that they serve are also pretty cool as well. And it has this really lovely community vibe. There will be a lot of regulars in there, but there will also be people in there that have never been there before. And everyone kind of looks after each other. The regulars will come and sort of interact with you a little bit. And it's just, you're very close together. That's the other thing. Generally, you're sharing one long table with other patrons, and then you have another table behind you, and then another table behind that one. So everyone's very close together. You can hear each other's conversations, and eventually they bleed into each other. And by the end of like maybe 2 hours of drinking, it turns into this incredible community vibe. And I think that's why it's so popular in Tokyo. So Frank, what can you recommend off the beaten path?
Off the beaten path. Well, like there are lots of places kind of like that where it's like one individual, right, who's not doing it to make the big bucks. They're doing it because they kind of want to have a relationship with all of the customers that come in. Um, and so there's a bunch of places that I've been to that have felt very similar, but at the same time, it's like you kind of gotta go explore and find those places on your own a little bit. So I was going to mention, take it in a slightly different direction, and I was going to talk about one of the Sasaki Shuzos. So up in Miyagi Prefecture near Sendai, you have Sasaki Shuzo 10, which was destroyed by 311, which as of recording was 13 years ago now. No, a little bit 12 or 13 years ago. But they rebuilt right on the Natori River, and right next to them is this series of restaurants and like souvenir shops called Kawamachi Terrace Yuriage. And so like you have the sake brewery, and then you have a bunch of places where you can like get food to take out and kind of like sit along the river. And I've been there a couple times with friends, and it's really delightful as this kind of like they're selling sake to be consumed on site, but it's not actually the sake brewery doing the restaurants and stuff. It's like a collaborative effort, which is really quite cool.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I don't know Sasaki Shuzo that well, but
It's
definitely.
good.
Another, while we're speaking about brewery run izakayas, it's not Tokyo. So I'm kind of sort of moving
Stepping into my territory.
stepping into Frank's territory a little bit here. But there's actually an amazing sake restaurant in Nagoya, which is run by a wonderful sake brewery that I'm good friends with. I think it will be quite well known to some of our listeners as well. The izakaya is called Koji Marutani.
Yes.
Koji Marutani. It's called Koji Marutani because they actually have a little, like a part of the building is actually being used to make koji, do like koji making experiences. But the restaurant itself is just, your normal kind of restaurant with an incredible sake menu. It will, of course, include sake from the brewery. That brewery being Sekiya Jozo, one of the first breweries to sort of do the make your own sake thing. So I think that's probably why I expect them to be quite well known around the world.
And the restaurant is in an old storehouse, right?
Correct. Yes, in an old storehouse. And it's quite easy to find. It's in downtown Nagoya. So, I mean, if I remember correctly, it's really close to the station.
It's not as close. I mean, you can walk because it's Nagoya. We're not in Tokyo where everything is an hour away. So I think it is about a 20 minutes walk from the station,
Okay.
which obviously in Tokyo distance is nothing.
Right.
From Nagoya Station, right? Not
Yeah.
from like the subway station or whatever.
No, it's the main station, I think, if I remember correctly, because we were getting a Shinkansen from the station afterwards. And that was it. I just had a night in Nagoya. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite get myself to the brewery itself. So I called the brewery and they said, "Oh, you must check out our restaurant." I said, "Okay, I'm going to do that." And I remember they had garlic bread. And, I mean, in Japan, I mean, proper garlic bread, as you can get it sort of in Italian restaurants or whatever in the UK, is a little hard to find here in Japan. And I have to say, garlic bread and sake actually it's a really good match. You should try it.
Chris,
So that would be my recommendation.
Are you bread deprived? We're talking about grilled cheese. We're talking about garlic bread. Like,
Come on, it's the simple pleasures in life. It's the comfort food, but it's an impressive looking restaurant. So I thought that was worth a mention.
No, it's amazing. And it's funny you're saying this because I was gonna say the same thing.
We're always on the same page.
I was like, I really love this. And there's another place in Nagoya that I think is really something I'd love to recommend. And I was thinking about it because what we forgot to say about Yoram's bar is he's very strongly focused on aged sake.
Yes, yeah.
So like that's pretty much what he does and what he does really, really well. And also he ages namasake, he ages everything and very successfully. But there is another aged sake bar and it is in Nagoya. It's called Élevage, so French word, and it's run by like a young sommelier. It's a counter style bar. It's a little bit more high end because again, everything he has is already 5, 10, 20 years old, but it's really special. He does again the great curation of the aged sake, and once he knows that you're interested, he gets really excited.
I think this is in the latest issue of Danchu, actually. Either it might not be the exact same, it could be, that
Mm.
someone worked there and it was part of their employment history. But this name I have heard.
No, he's really great, and like he goes to a lot of the sake festivals and tries new sake that he wants to introduce then through his bar. And again, I think he might be like in his late 30s. So again, a young guy with a newer concept, and yeah, you can go in there and just have a couple of drinks, or you can let him know that you're excited about aged sake, and then he will let you know a lot about where he gets things from and why things taste the way they do. Really great experience.
Sounds amazing. And Nagoya is, I think, one of my favorite places to go in
Nagoya
general.
is
It's so
extremely
cool.
underrated in terms
It is.
of
It
bars and izakaya culture.
Yeah.
I was just there 2 weeks ago, and we went randomly into a sake bar. That's actually a miso bar where they were specializing in miso because Nagoya or Aichi Prefecture is also quite famous for miso.
Yeah.
And we went there to for the miso, but then we stayed for the sake, and it's a great night. I mean, we ended up drinking with all the people in the bar at the end of it. So I was like, I need to spend more time in Nagoya.
Nagoya often like boasts that they have everything when it comes to like sake. They have miso, they have
Mm,
soy sauce, they have like historically they were the place that had everything that completes the whole, umami
yeah.
matchup. They often get, yeah, I agree with you. Nagoya often gets overlooked in pretty much everything. It often gets referred to as a boring place as well, which I think is unfair. It was one of the first places I actually went to in Japan. In fact, it was the first place I went to in Japan. The first place I landed in Nagoya Airport.
But
Yeah, but back in Tokyo, maybe maybe something. Well, this isn't a bar. This isn't like a standing bar. This isn't a. I guess we're going back to sort of izakayas in the traditional sense, but also izakayas which maybe focus more, a bit more kind of higher end on the kind of higher end, but not expensive. And it's a little izakaya I discovered quite by chance when I was in Ebisu, which already is a pretty famous area of Tokyo for drinking. Ebisu, of course, is the name of a brand of beer, and that's not a coincidence. Ebisu is a massive beer drinking place, but they also have a lot of great sake drinking holes as well. The place is called Shokoto. Shokoto. I think it's not that well known because I often introduce this place to people and like never heard of it, never been to it. But it's a
you
lovely.
introduced this place to me
I did. We went. Well, we've been together with
a long
with
time ago.
our good
Yeah.
friend Mac of Kampai Planet as well. And it's a cozy little izakaya. There's not that many seats. I've never been upstairs, but I do believe there is a second floor. But still, I don't think there's that many seats. And I think they do specialize in horse meat, although that's not something that I've ever ordered there. Because that entire street is actually famous for serving horse meat. But what I think makes this place stand out above all is their sake menu. They have a sake from every single prefecture in Japan on the menu, which is pretty incredible. And then the food is quite different from what you find in other izakayas. It's not traditional izakaya fare. It's quite creative cuisine. I would say Japanese washoku, but you could also refer to it as fusion as well. Yeah, what did you think, Cindy? You've been, so
Well,
you
it's been a
remember?
while,
You remember?
but I do remember. I also thought they had amazing pottery and plates,
Yes.
which added to the whole experience. So when you said it's a little bit more high end, I know what you're hinting at, but it really didn't come with the price tag that we
No,
were expecting for what we actually got.
no.
No, I love it. I was actually in Tokyo a couple of months ago, and I walked by it and I was like, that was a great sake bar. And I didn't have time to go back in. I think it's a place you want to go with company.
Agreed.
Like it's a place you want to have a meal, and you have amazing sake and you spend time with friends. So I need to find another opportunity to go back.
You can go in there and drink alone because they have a counter, So, if you don't mind sitting at the counter, I've been at the counter once, by myself actually, and it's nice. Kind of they look after you at the
Yeah.
counter. You
Okay.
chat to the staff. The owner is very friendly. The staff are very friendly, and again, they have like what we call in Japanese omotenashi, which is kind of hospitality is a very bad translation for this word, but it's a kind of an extra service that you get as part of Japanese culture. And they do something which I've not come across in any other izakaya. At the end, when you paid your bill and you leave the izakaya, they follow you out
Ew.
and they
I
give
remember.
you they give you a sachet of bath
Yes.
salts, which include minerals from a particular famous onsen somewhere in Japan. I don't know whether they have every onsen, but they have some of the famous ones like Kusatsu Onsen or Gero Onsen, for example.
Because
It's
I remember
completely
that I got like a hinoki bath salt.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
I'm not quite sure why I'm getting this, but I'll take it,
yeah,
like
yeah.
sure.
That's very cool.
It's such a nice little, added. And you were talking about the vessels, Cindy, and one of the cool things that they do in a lot of izakaya actually, is they bring the vessels on a tray, and
Yes.
they ask you to choose your own vessel. So it becomes a very personal, unique experience, especially if you're only going to go there once. So yeah, I thoroughly recommend this place. It's very reasonably priced. I think you can get plenty of sake, plenty of food for around 6, 7 thousand per person, which is incredibly reasonable.
And I was gonna say, I always love when the cups come out, right? The basket of cups comes out and you can
Yeah.
take something that you like, which we also lovingly call the personality test, because
Ah.
it really shows something about the other person that you might not expect, you know?
Hmm.
I'm always very curious to see which glass or which cup someone takes, and sometimes you're not expecting the combination.
Sometimes that's because they literally just take it at random. They're not thinking about it much at all in my case. But no, I agree. I know what you're talking about. And sometimes I think maybe even the person taking the cup doesn't realize that they're displaying some kind of giving off some kind of something about their personality.
No?
Is there anywhere like that on the higher end in Kyoto? I know the answer is going to be yes, and probably quite difficult to choose. But
The answer is yes.
What a
Um,
surprise.
I
yeah.
know, right? But to be honest, I think in my list of recommendations for our listeners, I haven't included any of that because I do think that's something you are more likely to find by yourself in Kyoto, whereas some of the shops that I want to introduce are places that I think are just really great experiences that you might not find or go into without someone pointing them out to you. Because there's a lot of kaiseki meals, there's a lot of high-end, like Ichiman, like $100 bill places in Kyoto where you get the great sake selection. Um, Maybe not as amazing as the one there because it was literally one sake from every prefecture, but we do have equivalents. I'm actually going to take you to two places that I think are awesome in Kyoto, which are a little bit different than what we already talked about. They are sake shop turned sake bars. So one of them is Asano Sake Shop, which literally has a retail space in the front, and then in the back it opens up almost double the space with a tasting standing bar. And they also kind of have everything. And the great part is they also collaborate with brewers. So every 2 weeks, a different brewery comes in, brings their lineup. So you can get these tasting flights that you can either put together yourself if you know what you're doing. You look at the menu, you put in the fridge, this is the three sake I want for like 1,500 yen. Or they have these sets of three sakes where you get one brewery and you get three different sake from the same brewery. And especially because they have these brewers come in on a bi-weekly rotation, you almost always find something interesting that normally wouldn't make it to Kyoto because it would not actually leave the prefecture or their brewery local shops. So I really, really love it. Very approachable. They have a little bit of food, and people in there like to talk because it's a little bit more of that like, oh, I'm trying stuff and I'm this tastes like this and this tastes like this. So the people next to you, even if they don't speak English, they will try and talk to you about what you're drinking or why do you like sake. So I think it's a really nice place to go, whether you're a beginner or a enthusiast, because there's a little bit of something for everyone.
Then you make friends and they take you to the next spot.
Exactly.
That's the whole game. Is you find these
Exactly.
places, right? It's like because in Tokyo, it's like the kakuchi style, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, kakuchi are like the best way to make quick friends and get those kind of connections because the people going, they want to chat, they're passionate about whatever type of kakuchi you're at, and I feel like they want to share and show off their knowledge.
And then the second place is actually almost a level up from Asano. It's Sake Cube, which is really run by young guys. The owner is quite young. He has a sake shop, but in the middle, he has a big table, like a communal table with lots of snack stuff on it. So you can have like canned food, you have crisps, you have like senbei or crackers, and all kind of sake treats or treats that go well with the sake. And you can basically just look at their fridges and almost order everything by the glass that he also sells. And because you're in this communal space, again, it's really designed for you to talk to the people beside you. Something unique that I haven't seen in many other places. You can also bring your outside food in and eat it there. So if you were gonna go to a combini or to like a daily counter and you get something, you can actually bring it in, then order a glass or two glasses of sake and enjoy your food or share your food with the other customers. So it's a really, really fun place. A little bit weird when you go in first because it's like, how does this work? But once you know this is the system, it's so much fun.
Oh, this looks great. This reminds me a lot of a place in Tokyo called Cow Liquors, which is sake, natural wine, and craft beer. And
Oh.
it's the same kind of style. There's a table in the middle, and then it's fridges and stacks of bottles, basically.
Mm.
No, this is
I
super
think it
cool.
can be a bit weird, right? When you don't know what to expect because you think it's a shop. But once you know the system, it's actually really amazing. And you always start talking to people because
Oh
that's
yeah.
design that it's built for.
And speaking about places where you can sort of go and just sort of bring your own food and have almost like a party and just like sort of, you know, have access to all this sake, but kind of effectively serve yourself. And I think this is one of the first places that actually started this pre-pandemic, quite a long time ago now. And I worked for this company for a while. Kurand is still running one or two of their all-you-can-taste sake bars in Tokyo. I think probably the easiest one to go to is in Akihabara. You pay, I think it's about 3,000 yen for all you can taste for about 3 or 4 hours or however long until the shop
3 or 4
closes if you go in
hours?
the evening.
It's so long.
I think so. Don't quote me on that because they have different service
Uh-huh.
levels, but I think the most expensive one is pretty much
Wow.
until the shop, closes. And you've got fridges. Now, the thing that's quite unique about Kurand is that the majority of their sake, and I think we talked about this in a previous episode, is sake that they've actually made together with the sake breweries. So the labels are actually a unique design and the concept is a unique concept. You're actually tasting sake that you won't find anywhere else in Japan. It's made unique, especially for Kurand. And like their lineup is 80% that essentially, which is how they kind of stay above the competition with other similar setups. But you can bring your own food. You have to bring your own food because they don't have a kitchen, so you can't really. They have like those little, like the cans that you can buy, and sort of I mean, they kind of look a bit like pet food, but they're actually quite tasty. So with like maybe yakitori in there or something, and they have a microwave so you can warm stuff up if you bring stuff in. I think they do have a delivery menu, or they used to have a delivery menu so you can kind of order stuff in as well. But they are still very popular. When I went in there, it was full of overseas visitors, and probably more overseas visitors than locals, in all honesty, because I think because their lineup is so avant-garde, and you can't really find anything that maybe you want to taste if you're. So that's something to know. If you if you would prefer to be drinking sake that is more kind of mainstream and sake that you can find in the shops, etc., that maybe isn't such a good idea. But if you're just after a general experience with sake and trying different things and broadening your horizons, I think that's a great place to go.
Any last
And I think,
recommendations, Cindy?
yeah. Or from
Any
you,
last
Frank?
recommendations?
Yes. Yes, I have more. I think we could probably do quite a bit
All right, we could make it.
on this, but
We could
I
make this
think
a show.
yeah,
Yeah, this is just episode one.
Yeah,
to be
right.
continued.
Yeah, this is the pilot.
No, I think there's actually two things in Kyoto that I think are worth mentioning. One is actually the brewery operated izakayas and restaurants, because again, we have Fushimi with 18 something breweries down there. Some of them do have restaurants. One of them is Torise, which is part of Yamamoto Honke. So they have their head store or head restaurant down in Fushimi, but they also have one in Pontocho, the area, as earlier saying, it's nice to go have drinks. So it's a nice place to start, and they have their own sake. If you go to Fushimi, they have like sake from the tank, like namasake that is literally coming from next door where it's brewed, which is quite special. Then there is Tama no Hikari, who just opened a place called Chunmai Sake Kasu, which is kind of a weird name, right, for a restaurant. But that's what it's called. So we have to go with that, which is kind of directed more towards a little bit of a younger, more fashionable audience. But they do a lot of dishes also with the leftovers of the sake production, so lots of sake leaves. And then we have, and again, very creative name. It's called Kyoto Station Front Tavern, Churakudai. It is by Sasaki Shuzo, which is located downtown in Kyoto. So you can also go and visit the breweries, but the restaurant again has all their sake and some extras, and then great little izakaya dishes in a relaxed environment that still has that traditional vibe of a traditional building because we're in Kyoto, but you don't have to feel like you have to be quiet or unnecessarily behave yourself. Like you can go in there with a bigger group of people and also have a bit of fun. So I think these are worth maybe visiting if you're in town, and they're certainly a little bit more special because they're run by the breweries themselves. And last but not least, and this is one of my favorites, and I kept it for last because of that, it's Masuya, and there is two of them. There's Masuya Saketen and there's Masuya Sake Hall. The Sake Hall is more of the restaurant that's a little bit more sit down, full menu. Great if you have 5 or 6 or even 8 people because they have the space for it. And then you have Masuya Saketen, which is their izakaya, which is my favorite of the two of them because it has that izakaya vibe, but it's very young. People are very friendly. They have great selection of sake. They have a menu, but then you can actually go and look in the fridge and choose what you want from the fridge because the fridge is a little bit different than what they have printed, which I think is always a great sign because it means that they're updating or rotating their brands according to what's coming out, or whether it's seasonal or whether it's a brand that they just discovered. So I think that's probably one of the must visits. If you do one izakaya in Kyoto, I would say go to Masuya Saketen. And they take reservations, which is also great. So you can actually make this happen without the fear of being rejected at the door.
Nice.
Definitely want to check that place out. Definitely. I think maybe I'll just throw one last one in there as well. Since we talked about aged sake and I didn't really offer any alternative for Tokyo, I think I will because I'm actually a massive fan of aged sake, and I think aged sake may possibly be the potential future of sake anyway. So one of the best places to explore matured / aged sake in Tokyo is without a doubt the Jukutokan bar. I think is probably the best way to refer to it. It's a tiny counter, probably seats about 4 or 5 people max. So you absolutely have to book in advance. and don't be surprised if it's already full up. But I am actually the official taster for Jukutokan, or one of the official tasters for Jukutokan. I occasionally do events there as well. I mean, it's run by this lovely chap who is, I would refer to him as an aged sake maestro. He knows everything there is to know about aged sake. Ueno-san, Nobuhiro Ueno-san. I don't think we've had him on the show up until before, but you can definitely find things about him online. And it's not just the collection of aged sake that they have, which incidentally, a lot of them are actually aged sake that they've aged themselves, like Yoramu in Kyoto. But it's also the service. So it's not just, they don't just pour you a glass of aged sake. They have many different ways of serving the aged sake. And the food menu as well is incredible. Ueno-san is actually a more than a competent chef, and that would be putting it lightly, I think. He obviously studied food as well, and although his English isn't really good, you can still communicate with him to some extent, even if you don't understand English. They're very welcoming. The owner of the bar is actually 100% fluent in English. Of course, there's no guarantee he's going to be there when you visit. But if you are going to visit, look me up. I do offer a special kind of English support service for a nominal fee. So, you know, if you want to go and you have a bit of extra, you can, you know, a bit extra budget-wise, and you absolutely would prefer to be able to speak to the master in English, I can help you out there. But it's well worth a visit. You'll find it on Google Maps. The name of the company that runs the bar is Sake Matured. And one last shout out from me. For some of my research, I actually did reference a fantastic website, which I think is probably one of the longest running websites providing a kind of the equivalent of a kind of a restaurant directory for Japan. It's called Bento Japan, or the Tokyo Food Page. It's been around a long time. It's run by a chap called Rob Satterwhite, and we'll put the URL in the show notes, but I thoroughly recommend checking this out because there is quite an extensive list of izakayas that he recommends on there. Some I'd not heard of that I'm definitely going to try and check out.
Yeah, so I think everybody who's listening, if you book your holiday to Japan, making it a couple of extra days longer, so
Yeah.
you can actually fit in a couple of these recommendations. It's a tough one, right? To come here, and there's just so much everywhere.
There's so much everywhere. And in the spirit of so much everywhere, my last recommendation is in Hagi. Have either of you been to Hagi?
Ooh.
You know where Hagi is?
No, I don't think so.
It's Yamaguchi, yes.
right?
So it's on the Japan
Yeah.
Sea coast of Yamaguchi. It's the old castle town for the Choshu domain. But there's a restaurant in Hagi called Hagi Keishu Korean Restaurant. And Hagi Keishu Korean Restaurant is for, in their own words, people who love Nihonshu and unpasteurized makgeolli. And their selection of Nihonshu is so good and so surprising because Hagi is not a big town. It is far removed from most population centers. You only kind of go if you're really wanting to be in Hagi. And it's a Korean restaurant, but they just really love their Nihonshu, and it's great. So Hagi Keishu Korean Restaurant or Nihonshu, and unpasteurized makgeolli if you want the unpasteurized makgeolli. But I just had Nihonshu the whole evening, and it was delightful. So truly.
What else would you have, Frank?
Yeah. Well said. And if you're going to be in Yamaguchi, I could recommend a great book with a little directory at the back for navigating sake in Yamaguchi, and that is, of course, the Yamaguchi Sake book by Jim Ryan, a good friend of ours, and a fantastic translator and writer. And it's an amazing little directory at the back of the book. that tells you all the places you can go and check out sake in Yamaguchi Prefecture.
So on that note, go out and explore Japan and explore all the strange little sake shops and restaurants that exist in all the little towns, not just the big ones. So I think that'll do it for this show. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Sake on Air. I have been Frank Walter, and I've been joined by Christopher Hughes.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed this. We have to do more of this series. This has to become a series. This was so much fun.
And Cindy Bissig.
Yes, I second everything that Chris just said. When I look at my map, I have so many saved places. It's almost impossible to pick a couple of them, but I think we did well.
I think so. So yeah, please take a moment to review and rate us on Apple Podcasts or whatever platform you maybe enjoy the show on, and feel free to send your questions and comments to questions@sakeonair.com or message us over on Instagram, Facebook, or Substack. You can also find us on YouTube as well. We'll be back with more Sake on Air very soon. Until next time, kampai!
Bye.
Kampai!
Sake on Air is made possible with the generous support of the Japan Sake and Shochu Makers Association, and is broadcast from the Japan Sake and Shochu Information Center in downtown Tokyo. It is produced by Export Japan, and our team is Shuso Imada, Justin Potts, Arlene Lyons, Cindy Bissig, Chris Hughes, Chris Pellegrini, John Gottner, Marie Nagata, Miho Ota, Rebecca Wilson-Lai, Sebastian Lemoine, and me, Frank Walter. Until next time, kampai!